Today we'll be showing you how to bend 3-point saddles and the things needed to do it. We're going to start with the type of benders that we'll be using today. This is the 3/4 inch bender, which is what we'll be using today. And it goes along with this TMT. It's pretty big. And then there's the 1/2 inch bender, which is a lot smaller, and we'll not be using this today. But this is the type of pipe that goes along with it. These are the diagrams of the bender that we'll be using today. This is the head. This is the handle. This is the boot. This is what you mostly use when bending 90s on the ground and whatnot. This is the holding clamp, which holds the pipe in the bender so it doesn't slip around. This is the arrow, which you will be bending most stuff at, like offsets at the mark when you mark the pipe. The notch is what we'll be using today along with the arrow, which is meant for 3 points in the middle so you don't mess it up. The star is meant for back-to-back 90s, which we'll be not learning today. And then the degree marks, which is what we'll be using today too. Okay, this is the diagram of the handle. This is the thread, which threads into the head. And then there's an offset bending guide on here, which tells you how to bend bigger offsets and whatnot. And then this is just part to attach a bender boot to.
In the bender, the main tools we're going to be using are the linesman, the levels, pen and pencil, and the tape measure.
These are the type of boxes that we'll be using today. This is a BC 1110 handy box, which is used for mostly every sort of pipe work. This is a BC 54 151K surface mount octagon box. This is meant for lights and whatnot. And this is an extension ring, which you'll be putting on these 1110 handy boxes when you run out of space in them to add more space. First, we're going to measure the height of the boxes. For this example, we'll be using the top of the box, like measuring to the top of the box. And we're going to go with 59 inches. So just mark that on the wall. Usually you'll be getting a direct height from like your employer or so, like what height switches and whatnot will be, but today we'll just be using 59 as a base. We'll be using today, it's just a normal pipe. Normally on like when you're working out in the field and whatnot, it'll just be like some sort of pipe that you cannot move and you'll have to go over with like a 3-point that goes like this. And then it'll be going to another box which we'll be mounting later on. Now, we're gonna have to measure the distance after we've mounted the boxes. First, we'll measure section A, which is from this box to the middle of this obstacle, which is 25 inches. And then we gotta measure section B, which will be from this box to the middle of this obstacle, which is 3 feet and a quarter, so 36 and a quarter. And then we gotta measure the height of the obstacle, which is about 2 3/8. And that's about all the measuring you got to do. Start with the measurements on the pipe for bending the 3-point saddle. We had an obstacle height of 2 3/8, but since we're using the chart, it only goes by inches, so we have to just round it up to 3. So with that, it means that we have to place the center mark A 9/16 away from the original center mark, which was 25. So you can see here, 25 plus 9/16 will be 25 and 9/16, which will be your mark A, which you'll mark from one end of the pipe, 25 and 9/16. And then for mark C and B, as you can see here, will be 7.5 inches away from this center mark. So if you do mark B, it will be plus 7.5 inches, which will be 33 and 1/16. And the other one will be minus 7.5 and will be 18 and 1/16. As you can see here, this is mark B, and this would be mark C. So from the same end where you marked A, you'd go 7.5 inches away, and it'd be C, and then you go 7.5 plus, and it'd be B.
So now we got to grab our pipe. Normally we'd use a pencil, but for the sake of the video and being able to see, I'm going to be using a Sharpie. The total length of the pipe is going to be around 61.5 inches. So we're just going to mark that out to start. That's 61.5. And then point A, which is the middle point, is at 25 9/16. So we'll pull that one out. Right there. And I'll mark that as A. B is at 33 1/16, which is right there. And C is at 18 1/16, which is right there. Then from there, what you want to do is mark it all the way around so it's visible when it's in the bender. Try and make it as circular as possible. You won't mess up anywhere. The easy way to do that is just keep twisting the pipe as you make your marks. And those are the 3 marks we need to bend the 3-point saddle. We have to put our pipe in the pipe vise. You gotta make sure it latches on and you tighten it really slightly so that it cannot slip while you're cutting it. It's doing pretty good now. Now that we have our pipe in the vise, we're going to cut it. And you follow the line, start off slow to get your groove going so that you can't slip out, and you can pick up your speed as you go along. You can kind of push it down a little bit to give yourself room so that the blade isn't getting stuck in between the pieces of pipe. There we go. So our next step is to deburr the pipe where we cut it, otherwise it has a good chance of nicking the wire and causing a short. There are a few ways you can do this. You can use a reaming tool, a pair of linesmen, or some files. I'm going to show off all 3. For the linesman, put it in, put a bit of grip on it, and twist. Does an okay job, just need to give it a few turns. The file's pretty simple. Just file off the burrs. Usually you can use a smaller file for the inside and then a bigger file for the outside. It makes it easier to deburr. And the easiest of all is just to have a reaming tool. You put it into your set pipe and you twist. It all depends on what tools you have and are available to you, and they all work similarly. We've cut and marked our pipe, it's time to bend it. So what you want to do is you want to put mark A, which is the middle mark, into the bender and line it up with the notch. Now with the measurements we did, we're going to go with a 45-degree bend. So mark A is going to be at 45 degrees, which is right about here. And mark C is going to be at 22.5, which is generally in this area. So we're going to start off our first bend, taking it slow. If you go slow but with a constant pressure, you won't get kinks. So here we go, first bend, down to 45 degrees. Looks about right. Bend A done, we're going to move on to bend B. We're going to once again make sure we put the obstacle in front of the bender. We're going to line B up with the arrow, check for dog legs, make sure it's straight. And since it's so short here, I'm going to need a breaker bar. What a breaker bar is, it's a larger piece of pipe that you will slip over your initial piping. And now I have more leverage to make this bend. So for this bend, we're going to 22.5 degrees, so I'll start to bend to 22.5, like so. Take the breaker bar off, take it out. There we go. So now that we have bend A and bend B done, we're going to move on to bend C. Now this is the final one, so once again slip it into the bender, move it up to the arrow, and make sure the obstacle is once again in front of the bender. So it's a very easy way to mess up your bend. Right now if I were to bend it, it would have a dog leg in it, which I would have to fix and go back on. So to prevent that, just straighten it like so. Check it's in line with the arrow, and we're going to bend it to 22.5 again. Like that. we're going to start working on the offsets on either side so they can fit into these boxes.
Now that we have the 3-point done, we got to bend offsets in the pipe so we can stick it into the boxes. The first mark you're going to want to make at 2 inches, and then the next one at 4 1/4, which gives it perfect spacing for the offset. Make sure you put the marks all the way around the pipe so that you don't lose the marks in the bender. Just like that. Inside of the pipe all marked up. You gotta do the other as well, because there's 2 boxes.
So now that we've marked our pipe, we have to start bending the offsets. We stick it in, line the first mark to the arrow, like so, make sure it's straight. And we're going to bend it to 10 degrees. About there. That's the first one. So now we're going to move into the second one. We flip it the other way around, put it back into the arrow. It can be a little stiff. Make sure it's straight, which right there, bend to 10 degrees. There we go. Now we're just going to put the offsets on the other side.
This is a knockout punch set. This is what you use in order to get bigger holes in boxes, because they normally start out with something like this, which is a 1/2 inch hole. And then since we're using 3/4, we're going to be using this, and it just makes a bigger hole so you can put the pipe in. The knockout punch set, you're going to want to put this end in here, and then twist this end onto it. Oh.
Wherever he is.
This all tightened up. You gotta make sure that you push it up to here, so then the hole doesn't interfere with this down here, and make sure it's somewhat centered. And then once you have that, you're gonna want to grab a wrench and stick it on here and tighten it up. And then you're gonna grab a pair of channel locks and place it on the other end, and then start turning it to tighten it. Now that we have it going, now you just gotta keep on twisting it until you hear 2 loud cracks. Now that we have the knockout punch set out of the box, you're gonna want to untwist the blade all the way off, and then there should be a piece of metal in this little cup, and you should just be able to pull it right out. These are 1/2 inch set screw connectors. There's 2 different types, just like this. And then there is 3/4 inch set screw connectors that look like this. And these are what you would put into a box in order to make pipe be able to sit inside of it like that. these are the lock nuts that you use to tighten the connector into said box. Just like that. Or just like this. And usually these flatter ones would go to these more smoother set screw connectors, and these more bulkier ones usually go to these not so smooth ones. Now that we've showed you all the different types of set screw connectors, we're gonna start with a 1/2 inch set screw connector, and it's gonna fit into a 1/2 inch hole just like that. And then you're gonna want to grab a 1/2 inch lock nut and put it on, and then just continue screwing it on until it gets tight like that. And hold this end just to make it even more snug. Then you can grab a flathead and a pair of linesmen and stick one end on the little notches on the set screw, and then just bang it one time with the linesman. So now that we have the set screw connector all tightened up, you're going to want to try to put the pipe in. It won't go in first try because there's a screw in here that you're going to want to twist up just a bit, so there's a spot for it to go in. And then you can just slide it right in just like that. And then you can get a flathead or a red Robbie and just tighten it up. Just like that. So now that we have the 1/2 inch one done, we gotta do 3/4, which what we'll be using with our pipe. This is a 3/4 hole, which we cut out with the knockout punch set. Just put it in like that. Grab your lock nut and just twist it on a bit. Until it starts getting tight. And then you can grab this end and do that. And then you can grab a flathead and a linesman, stick it on one end, and just hit it a couple times. And make it nice and snug. Now that we have the 3/4 inch set screw connector in the box and all tightened up, you're gonna want to grab your 3/4 inch pipe, which is what we used, and try to put it in. It might not work first try because you gotta do the same thing as the 1/2 inch and twist the screw enough so you can slide it in, just like that. Then you want to grab a flathead or a number 2 and tighten it up. Just like so. Now that we've showed you all the set screw connectors, now we'll just be putting the pipe that we have bent on the wall. And this is how it would look on the wall.